Hi everyone, I'm Shauna and welcome to the channel. And I'm going to be talking about what's on my fall TBR, what I kind of can't wait to dig into fall. I get that it's a little bit late, but it's only officially fall as of a couple of days ago, so I still think that I'm just in time to talk about what I'm excited to read, what I have in my hands to read for the season. So a little bit about my preferences. As a whole, I'm not super into mysteries or thrillers. Fall is generally the only time that I dig those kinds of things. I'm into them, craving them. And I'm a bit of a baby. Like, I get scared really easily. I was watching Lost and had to stop because it freaked me out too much. If something is going to keep me up at night, I won't read it. So I like more of like a soft or gentle mystery. It was Anne Bogle who described a genre of dystopian novels as like a gentle apocalypse. This would be things like Emily St. John Mandel's Station 11 or Severance by Ling Ma. I don't like the gentle apocalypse, but I think a gentle mystery is kind of my thing. I did like Where the Crawdads Sings in terms of that's the kind of mystery that I'm into, although that book did have other problems. That's the realm of mystery thriller that I can kind of handle, maybe a little bit more than that, but that's the sweet spot. So listen, there's a couple on here that I don't know if they're like too scary for me, but I'm gonna try them anyways. But let's get into it. The first one that is what I'm currently reading is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This book is on everybody's fall recommended readings, and it's from the late 90s, I think, and I've always wanted to read it. I don't actually know what it's about. I do know that it's fall campus, I think maybe New England students, and then I also think there's a murder. It's been pegged as a classic, and I'm pretty sure like elite college has been thrown around, or elite liberal arts college has been thrown around. Where I live, a liberal arts college doesn't really exist, but I think I get what they mean. So New England on its own feels fall to me, but also going back to school is peak transitional fall. And for me, fall on campus has just been such a pivotal part of fall and like fall memories for me. Leaves turning on campus, seeing the ivy, so I get a bit nostalgic for that too. I don't know what it's about more than what I just told you, but also the word elite has been thrown around in regards to this book, and that makes me a little bit nervous. What this makes me think of is the Dead Poet Society. That was a movie I couldn't get into. It's like elite rich college boys, poor privileged white boys, you know? If it's in that realm, there's a chance I won't like it, but I have high hopes based on what I've just told you and the fact that it's on so many like best of fall lists. All right, number 2 is Empire of the Wild by Sherry Demoline. I hope I said her name right. This book is inspired by a traditional Métis story about, and I have direct quotes here, a werewolf-like creature that haunts the roads and woods of Métis community. That's the basis of the story, which totally sounds creepy, and this is one that like I hope I can like handle. This book is about a woman named Joan, and her husband has gone missing. So the plot is he goes missing for a year. She sees him one day basically reappear out of nowhere, claiming to be this priest or a reverend, going by a different name, doesn't remember his past life, and she's like, is this really my husband? If so, what the fuck happened? This traditional Métis story of like the haunting wolf makes me feel like there's gonna be twists and turns, but also a little bit psychological thriller-y. What also makes me nervous about this book is that it's set near Georgian Bay, and I spent my childhood around Georgian Bay. Granted, like Georgian Bay is a very large body of water. I can really picture the settings, and that's creepy for this like horror, it's not a horror, this psychological thriller mystery. I'm very excited about this, and this definitely feels like one for October. But here's hoping that I can handle this. Next up is Local Woman Missing, and this reminds me of Empire of the Wild because It's about a woman who goes missing. A few months later, another woman and her 6-year-old daughter go missing. So like a decade goes by and then the daughter comes out of nowhere. Like she reappears. This one is overtly claimed to be a psychological thriller. So this one is also one where I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Definitely an October read if I'm gonna read it. But I think if I read Local Woman Missing and Empire of Wild, I think in between in October I would need a palate cleanser, something light, something fluffy to not be so dark and haunting. Next up is The Guest List. This one is a mystery but set in Ireland. Thinking about Ireland gives me fall vibes. Like it seems kind of a peak fall winter location and here for it. Ireland is very beautiful. And it also feels like the place that you would really cuddle up with a great book. It feels chilly to me. So it really feels perfect for the season. And it's the cover of the book too that gives me this chilly but also like creepy kind of cold vibe. By the way, I don't have any of the books here because I do my reading almost exclusively on an e-reader. So all of these are available at my library and I already have some of them checked out and I am like on waiting lists for other books. So I do know that I can actually read them in the fall season. It'll just be on an e-reader. So back to The Guest List. This one is about a wedding that happens off the coast of Ireland and then like somebody dies at this wedding. This book really feels like the setting is going to become a character and it's Ireland on an island, being on an island and then a death happening feels very mysterious, very creepy. I am very intrigued with all of this setting ambiance that is already being built up in my mind before actually reading anything, which has a lot to do with the cover imagery but also just the setting itself. And the fact that it's happening in Ireland kind of has the opposite effect as Empire of Wild. Ireland is far enough away in reality for the setting to not scare me in that same way as a local setting. Although I'm very aware that these are works of fiction. All right, book number 5 is a sci-fi book. It's called The Book of Joan. Sci-fi is my favorite fiction genre. I am a huge sci-fi junkie. And I think it's one of the genres that I'm most picky about. Even in reality, or even on TV, like I'm a huge Trekkie. I love Star Trek. I also love a good dystopian novel or movie. Anyways, this is a retelling of Joan of Arc. So this is a near apocalyptic retelling of Joan of Arc, which sounds hella cool. So you already have this badass kind of kick-ass female protagonist, and a lot of the times when there are retellings of Joan of Arc, her heroism and her like badassery gets like kicked up 100 notches, almost to the level of a trope. Can we call Joan of Arc a trope? Like, is she a trope? Anyways, so the plot here is that Earth has virtually been destroyed by war and the surface of the planet is radioactive and humans have become, and I quote, sexless and hairless, which is really weird. The author apparently does some work with gender fluidity in the book, which I am always up for. That's kind of all I know. And you have a retelling about a badass female character, you have dystopian, and then you also have somebody who's like screwing around with gender roles and norms. That sounds like the perfect book for me. Okay, saying the word perfect really sets up the book to this high level, and I don't know if I want to do that, but I'm very excited about it. The Year of the Witching is on the list too, and I don't have a full description here because there's a question mark about this. I know, and the reason why is because I have 3 mysteries, 2 that are super creepy AF, and these witchy kind of spooky books I'm only gonna read in October. Maybe like on the cusp, like right now we're just heading into October, or on the other end I could be down for it, but the season is pretty short and I really don't know if I would get through 4 mysteries in the month. So The Year of the Witching didn't appeal to me as much as the other books because this is like a cloistered, almost, at least my understanding, is like this Amish community, and this woman like finds out that she's a witch. There's definitely some like dark secrets brewing kind of vibes that I got from this book. So there is definitely something appealing to this, and there could be really great world building. If you've read this book or any of the other ones I've talked about, let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I would really love to hear your feedback, because it could sway me to read one book over the other. Before I finish up, I do want to talk about a couple of self-development books that are on the radar too. These are much less fall centric than what I've talked about so far, but they're still what I'm reading, and books that I would consider maybe palate cleansers, or just books that are important to me in other ways than just like for fun. The first is We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. I did get an internship, and the person I'm interning for recommended this book to me. That alone is enough to make me want to read it. And so this book is really all about like self-empowerment, female empowerment, also challenging money mindsets. That's what I know about this book, and a recommendation from somebody you trust that says if you want to disentangle your thoughts about money, read this book. If you want some self-empowerment, read this book. I'm gonna trust that. The other book on the radar for me in this category, like I have so many in this category, is How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. So it's described as offering both a manifesto of self-healing as well as an essential guide to creating a more vibrant, authentic, and joyful life. My goal is to read at least one self-development book a month, hopefully more, but it kind of depends on the vibe of the month. How many times have you heard people utter the phrase, how to do the work, or like, I'm doing the work, or you gotta do the work? And I'm in the process of trying to figure out so much in my life, like what's making me happy, what's the next step in my career, trying to figure out my own shit, my own, self-doubt, self-criticism, negative self-talk, trying to show up as my most authentic self. That's a lot of hard work, and you can't always just journal your way out of problems. And if I can speed things along or not have to do things completely on my own, I'm here for that. So I'm here for the advice of other people if it's going to help. Now, back to the fall content. All right, next up is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. My library says I'm like 30 days away from getting this book, so I don't actually know if there's a chance I'll get to read this one. This is the only one that I'm not sure about access. Think about this plot. This book is about a woman who was cursed with living forever but immediately forgotten. So she's been alive for 300 years, and one day somebody remembers her name. Also, it has a 4.3 rating on 350,000 reviews. That sounds amazing. I've heard a lot of great things about V.E. Schwab. She has another series that got really high remarks. I remember reading the plot for it, but just like didn't speak to me. This sounds awesome, and it has the spooky vibes without being overtly like Halloween or mystery. It has these like dark undertones. One of my favorite series, which I actually think is an unpopular opinion, is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I've heard a lot of criticisms about that series. I think some of them are justified, but I really liked it and was probably my favorite book of 2019. Loved it so much. And so that book has very dark, like, I don't mean dark in terms of like horror, that kind of thing. I mean dark as in like moody kind of vibes, and that's what I'm thinking about here. I read that book in February, and I remember that because it was part of my library's like date with a book, and I was into it then. So I feel like if this comes after October, I would likely read it too. The other book that's just not on here that has been thrown around a lot is Practical Magic. I know that's a movie. I didn't actually realize it was a book. I haven't read it or seen it, and it's kind of like a lighthearted witchy kind of theme, and when I was talking about the Year of the Witching, like I'm down for a witchy novel, but it feels the Year of the Witching seems really dark, whereas I'm more inclined to read a lighthearted witchy book. So that one is not on here because I also don't know if I can get access to it for the October season, the spooky season. I would read it now if it came available now, and might be actually a really great palate cleanser that's still in the spooky vibes to kind of let me read some of the scarier things out there. I was also trying to get books that are like small town vibes, kind of like Gilmore Girls, Stars Hollow. That feels particularly fall, that kind of like community climate. But I wasn't really finding anything, so if you have any recs, I would love to hear them. If you have any fall recommendations, leave them in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on them too. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.